You were speaking about those fake anti-war folks. Let's play this. Oh wait, should we do Angie Nixon or Josh Hawley? What's better?
The Josh Hawley thing might be good to play because he
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
After a literal Israeli settler said, "This is all the problem I had in the Israel settler colony."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is Josh Hawley, and Ted Cruz got in on the fun as well.
Tom Cotton too
Tom Cotton,
all three of them.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
The Ivy League fascists.
Yeah, the nightmare unholy trinity. It went after this Biden judicial nominee Abdil Abdullah Manji. Not sure how to pronounce his last name, but either way, what you really need to know is that he's a Muslim person, and this was enough for them to engage in deeply racist accusations against him.
And a little context of this line of questioning, Mangi was the head of an advisory board for a certain organization, and the director of this organization had some critical comments of the Israeli government.
The National LGBT Bar Association, because he was on he was an advisory board on that. Whatever. I mean, much of his history is like in law. It's about fighting discrimination in other forms, and this is Josh Hawley questioning him about basically his loyalty to Israel because of his Muslim identity.
If I could just start with you, I just want to make sure I understood your answers to my colleagues, including Senator Cruz. Let me just read you something. I just want to know if you agree with this or not. This should be simple. Here's a statement. The demand to center Israel's right to self-defense, that's in scare quotes, self-defense, erases the colonial context and delegitimizes the Palestinian right to resistance. We are in awe of the Palestinian struggle to resist violent occupation, removal, erasure, and the expansion of Israeli settler colonialism. Do you agree with that, yes or no? I realize you didn't write it, and you may not know who the author is. You may never have heard of these people before. I just want to know, does this represent your view, yes or no?
So you have to answer.
Senator, any attempt to justify what happened on October 7th, I have absolutely no...
Well, that's not the context here. This is talking about any discussion of Israel's right to self-defense.
Let's say what the context is. It's a letter from a 2021 director of Rutgers Center, saying that a ceasefire between Israel and Gaza wouldn't end the horrible conditions that people live under. So this
is why, in the context of David Cameron, former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, a Tory, actually, I can't remember exactly which flare-up of Israel massacring people in Palestine it was, but said the attacks, and this was a case of they attacked IDF soldiers, which I will just say, not even referencing morality or righteousness, are an acceptable target under international law because they are occupiers, that's not my position as a radical leftist. That is international law, and so that's the situation here. And
this is Red Scare stuff. Yeah. This is Red Scare. Are you sufficiently supportive of Israel because you're a Muslim?
Yeah,
questioning
the Center for Security, Race, and Rights at Rutgers Law School. This is a letter from
2021,
literally not even germane to the October 7th politics of this at all.
Yeah, and this man would be, if he's able to get through, the first Muslim on the U.S. Court of Appeals, and this is how the Republicans choose to interrogate
Just
him.
To finish my point about Cameron, he said, we do need to stop the violence, but also Gaza is an open-air prison. That's when he famously said that. So, yeah.
Defense erases the colonial context. It's calling Israel a colonial state. So can we just answer my question? Do you agree with this, yes or no?
Senator, I don't claim to be an expert on the Middle East. I don't have the historic or regional expertise.
Sounds like a maybe. That's a maybe. Maybe you agree? Can we get a yes or a no?
This is second.
He'd say this is a policy question or a question for foreign experts.
That's what I don't understand. By the way, this was written by the director of the center you sat on the board of, that you advised. This is the director.
Not even
some
him.
random professor, the director, who published it in an open letter. So when you say it's a policy, what's the policy about calling Israel a violent settler colonialist state? Why is
The
that
truth.
a policy question?
Yeah.
The truth?
Senator, that is not a statement that I had any involvement with.
Okay, good. So would you condemn it then? You say this does not represent your views.
Senator, I have no basis as a judicial nominee to cast views on the Middle East. Or what
You're
does or does
see,
not
this
happen
This
there.
is what you're not answering my question. I'm asking you whether this individual who said that Israel was a violent settler colonial state, I'm just trying to get you to say, do you agree with that or not? And I've asked you now 4 different times, 4 different ways. You're not answering me. Why is that? Why can't you just say, no, I don't agree with this? Let's try again.
Yeah.
Do you agree with this statement, yes or no?
Senator, in order to agree or disagree with any statement, I need to have a sufficient factual background to assess it.
So you, in other words, you can't say whether or not Israel is a violent colonial state. You think that's a difficult question?
God. That is not an issue with which I have any expertise.
Is the Holocaust also a difficult question? Does that need context?
No.
Is that a policy question?
I am quite happy to address the Holocaust, Senator.
Why aren't you happy to address this then? Why is it that an individual in the center that you directed who calls Israel a violent colonialist state, those are racist comments. No. Why can't you condemn that? I don't understand it. You won't answer my questions. You won't answer Senator Cruz's questions. You wouldn't answer Senator Kennedy's questions. I don't understand why this is complicated.
Senator, I'm Pakistani. I didn't grow up in the Middle East.
I didn't either. I didn't either, but that doesn't mean that I can't say that somebody who says that a Jewish state is a violent colonialist enterprise is wrong. This isn't a policy question.
I can't let him go for 3 minutes just being racist. We do need to get to a point where people are able to call a spade, and Israel is these things. Now, I think the judge is right that it's not appropriate for him to just opine on stuff like that, but at a certain point, like...
he shouldn't even be in a position to do this. I mean, why is this happening to him?
Of course, but
it's completely unfair.
But I do think, like, I don't know, like
maybe he doesn't have the expertise. I mean, right?
Maybe.
Right? Maybe.
Or maybe he doesn't want to say it because it's politically going to be harmful for him.
Sure.
Which I think is, and I don't think that's his fight to break through this. But I think that he's in this position is a failing of people to say, yes, actually, it is a violent settler state, and because all this is this is all like snowballed in on this.
Yeah, I mean, but the burden is not on the guy who's being like racistly interrogated.
It's also just a smart way to answer this as a judicial nominee. I mean, who for all he knows, he can come across situations where this could affect if he gets nominated. This could affect something in the future that he has to purvey over.
Right. And I'm not saying, like I said, like I don't think this is his fight to win, but I do think the response needs to be more affirmative than this poor guy. It should be actually what Hawley is saying is indicative of Mr. Hawley's inability to grasp reality. And there's not actually an organized political center that is willing to do that isn't like just leftists or the occasional historian here or there.
I mean, he's being put up for nomination by a Zionist, self-proclaimed Joe Biden. So, like,
this is why
if he said that, Biden would freaking pull his nomination, don't you think?
Yeah.
There's a chance Biden would pull his nomination.
But this is how our judiciary gets stacked with Zionists or people that are going to be soft on it. I mean, we can play a little bit more.
I don't even know why.
It would be surprising to me, though, if Joe Biden even knew what was going on with this, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, Biden is still repeating the beheaded babies myth over and over and over and over again.
Well, that's because someone told that to him specifically, and it's now stuck in his... No, he's saying he
saw it. He's saying he saw it, and there's no images. Sorry, I'm pissed off. Go on.
Well, also, we know for a fact just based on how many, we do have the details in terms of the ages of people who died, and there just simply wasn't anywhere near 40 babies that were even killed to begin with. It was, I believe, single digit, if not, I think it was one under the age of I don't remember the exact age, but only one that you could consider to be an actual baby or something like that.
Well, some people could imagine it happening because they're Islamophobic. So that's almost as good as it having actually happened.
You know what some people imagined happened, and now we're getting word that actually it might have happened, is a lot of Israeli deaths were a result of friendly fire of overactive response on October 7th that didn't actually care about protecting and getting people back safely.
Well, we don't know exactly how many yet to say a lot, but we definitely know that it happened.
We don't, but I do know, I can say for certain that the context in which to investigate that sort of thing is not in continued bombing of Gaza. It would be under a ceasefire conditions with independent experts allowed in there, and Israel does not want that.
They said that they would be disrespectful. They said it would be disrespectful to the dead to investigate these claims. As, by the way, the Biden administration had been casting aspersions on the death count coming out of Gaza. As first it was 1,400 killed on October 7th. Then it was revised to 1,200. And now it's 1,150?
That's counting all the IDF guys too.
But we implicitly trust the Israel account of it. Why? Because
as they call every male above a certain age, like 13, combatant.
They've also claimed that they've killed more than what the Hamas numbers are. So I mean, it doesn't sound like they're kind of proud of the numbers being even higher. So I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there any more of this Hawley stuff that we should get to? Or is it just kind of the same shit?
I think it's just the same.
Yeah.
So
it's disgusting.
Yeah. But Dick Durbin after this basically just submits something into the record of like 200 different Jewish and Jewish women's organizations all supporting this guy's nomination, and just being like, okay.
Dick Durbin's had an okay few months recently.
But also just as you guys are saying, like literally like the Joe Biden approving, or at least in a cursory way approving this nomination, Jewish organizations approving this nomination, but then in this hearing, 3 of these guys are like, how much of a sympathizer are you with the enemy?
Well, it just makes it super clear, really quick, Brandon. It just makes it super clear that Christian Zionists and evangelical fundamentalists are driving so much of this domestically.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's not just to keep like people who are explicitly pro-Palestine out of positions of authority in government. Like we saw with that grilling of the heads of those like 3 colleges. It's really just a way for right wingers to exert a kind of power over institutions that they do not like by draping themselves in a new, more palatable veil of victimhood because they're indexing Israel. And so people who, give credence to QAnon, which is at the very least anti-Semitic adjacent with most of their conspiracies, people who refuse to condemn like actual neo-Nazis in their own state are able to be friends to the downtrodden by basically draping themselves with the Israeli flag. And, it's
sometimes literally in the form of John.
Literally. But it's to get the craziest conservatives in positions of authority. People who aren't going to act judiciously, but people who are going to come out and just full-throated be like, yeah, I love ethno-nationalism. I love it.
I mean, look how quickly you brought up the grilling of the 3 university presidents, which has gripped the nation for this entire week. Obviously, the most important story of the week. The right really won this round in terms of getting exactly what they want in the headlines. But it was actually kind of stunning to me how they sort of weaponized really in a short period of time the so-called, for them, concerns of anti-Semitism on these college campuses, and then so as quickly as they could take that conversation and make it all about diversity, equity and inclusion, DEI. That's quickly what they moved to frame it in a more right-wing framing of things. And then to really make sure that we stayed on this topic and didn't go back to the anti-Semitism. All of a sudden it was, did you know the Harvard president is a plagiarist? And all of a sudden conservatives really all of a sudden cared a lot about academic integrity and plagiarism out of the blue. I've never seen them care so much about this before.
I know.
And I mean, I guess why I'm a little bit, I want more from judges is like, I think that statement by the Rutgers Center, I think legal organizations should take positions like that, because that is actually like what's going on in Israel-Palestine is not a class of civilizations. It is a legal structure that is imposed by the monopoly of force in the world, America and client states like Israel. And before that, it was Britain. Like it is objectively a colony because they didn't just go there on their own. The Zionists, they looked for help for sponsors at the time, the British government, but also the American government and the Russian government, and it would not have happened without that. It is just objective to call it well, it's more right to call it settler colonial than colonial. It's obviously violent. I mean, what decade are you going to point to say it isn't? And then what was the other thing? Violent settler or violent colonial, and I can't even remember what the third thing was.
It was violent settler colonial.
Yeah, I mean, it is just those things. So yeah, yeah, like these organizations, judicial organizations, actually can't be agnostic about that sort of stuff. And I don't know where the line is. If you were part of a judicial organization that did make a statement about that, I kind of think like we need to get to a point where we're as willing to address Israel-Palestine as we are willing to address the Holocaust.
All right, folks. I thought we'd get to other topics, but alas. I mean, I don't even, not to be too self-congratulatory, but like, I don't even understand. There's like people like fucking Aaron Rupar on Twitter, okay, who are like Democrats and don't even address this. Like, I mean, writers that just pretend it doesn't exist. 80% of the MSNBC hosts. It's more Trump L's. Give me an effing break. Yeah. If you wake up every day and this doesn't make you sick to your fucking stomach and you call yourself a liberal, I don't even want to talk to you anymore. They should be excommunicated from fucking public life. Or I'm sorry, not like that, but like basically, like don't take them. None of these people should be taken seriously.
I'm not gonna. Go ahead, Brandon.
I'm going to say it's also the kind of thing that will eventually be turned against them, you know, in some way, shape, or form. And they will be like, woe is me, or where did this come from? Or I can't believe more people aren't speaking out about what's happening to me. And, you know, it's those kinds of things that pundits pull, especially op-ed pundits pull in the country, that I think is especially infuriating, where they'll give so much credence to negative ideas that have obvious consequences. And then when it happens to them, they will be surprised that no one is willing to speak out about, you know, the latest atrocity going on in their workplace.
Well, it sort of did happen. You know, it sort of. I remember, you know, in the early Trump
hanging
days,
up the phones, guys. Go on.
The idea that like abortion rights were going to change in this country was like being mocked by like the pundit class, like any sort of like comparison to like, I remember there was a big show at the time, The Handmaid's Tale or whatever. It was like mocked, like, oh, please, this is ridiculous, this is fear mongering. And I mean, here we are, and you're seeing what happens in a very publicized case in Texas where a woman couldn't get an abortion for a fetus that basically had a fatal condition that was going to affect her health and her life and her even ability to have kids in the future. And they were allowing her to get an abortion to save her or to protect her own health. I mean, it's quite clear that things like that, that example has happened, and unfortunately it hasn't changed people. I mean, those pundits care so much about Trump being reelected, yet this issue is clearly going to affect Biden's chances, and you think that would sort of light a fire under their ass, but it doesn't. Instead, they're just blaming like American Arabs and American Muslims for not like how do you convince someone who lost a dozen family members in Gaza? How could you convince someone that, but it might be worse under Trump? The worst has already happened to them. I mean, why would they care if Trump's elected at this point? I mean, it's not going to affect them one way or another. They've seen it. Yeah.
All right, gonna read some like 10 more IMs and then we got to get out of here. Kowalski says, see, folks, Emma has that methamphetamine badger New Jersey energy. I guess I do. I'm sorry. I don't mean
I don't think
anyone.
you're melodramatic at all.
I don't think anyone should be excommunicated from public life. It's a bit hyperbolic by me.
Cancel culture.
It was like a mad pope. All of a sudden.
But I mean, excommunicated from like people's individual ability to take them seriously. Sure.
I think it's really bizarre to me. Like the George Santos stuff or the House Speaker stuff. I have not been able to.
I have to hype myself up to care about it because it's my job.
It's like learning Latin or something.
Yeah,
like that.
right.
Like, this is a dead language. None of this matters anymore.